Korea's firing of multiple projectiles over the weekend, urging the regime to stop raising tensions.
The U.S. says it will be raising tariffs on China later this week, accusing Beijing of backtracking on trade talks. South Korea's central bank, meanwhile, prepares for the potential fallout.
Prices at gas stations rise even further as the government begins to phase out its fuel tax cuts.
And the South Korean government says it will build more than 100,000 new homes in cities near Seoul as part of efforts to stabilize the housing market. NEWSCENTER begins now. Good evening and welcome to Arirang News Center, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Arirang.
And I'm Han. Thanks for tuning in. South Korea's military has expressed concern over North Korea's firing of multiple projectiles over the weekend, urging the regime to stop raising tensions.
Seoul's military says it is working with the U.S. military to try and determine whether short-range ballistic missiles were included in the firing. Kim Ji-yeon starts us off.
South Korea's defense ministry has called on North Korea to halt acts that raise tensions on the peninsula. At a briefing on Tuesday, a defense ministry spokesperson said that although North Korea's firing of short-range projectiles last week did not constitute a violation of an inter-Korean military agreement signed last September, it did go against the spirit of said bilateral accord. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff said South Korean and U.S. intelligence units are jointly investigating on the specific type of projectiles used by the North. The Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmed that the regime had fired multiple short-range projectiles involving a new type of tactical guided weapon, as well as 240 and 300 millimeter multiple rocket launcher systems off its east coast between 9:06 a.m. and 10:55 a.m. local time on Saturday. It said the military is trying to determine whether the new tactical guided weapons were ballistic missiles, considering factors such as flying altitudes, but said obstacles remain in rendering further identification. An official described that several projectiles have flown in altitudes between 20 and 60 kilometers, lower than short-range ballistic missiles, which fly at an altitude of some 80 kilometers and have a target range of some 250 kilometers. On whether the projectiles could be short-range ballistic missiles, like the Russian Iskander-class ballistic missile, known to be able to carry a nuclear warhead while being difficult to intercept by existing Patriot or terminal high-altitude area defense systems, the South Korean military responded that such possibility is still under investigation. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Seoul and Washington are both analyzing what the projectiles the North fired on Saturday could be. Experts say the photos Pyongyang released show that the North is developing its own version of Russia's ballistic missile system. Our Oh Jung-hee has the story.
Seoul says the North's firing of short-range projectiles on Saturday was not provocative. Washington agrees, saying it wasn't much of a threat, as the projectiles aren't mid-long range or intercontinental ballistic missiles. It seems both are trying to keep tensions low and the momentum for dialogue with the North alive. But experts point out the projectiles were ballistic missiles. On Sunday, Pyongyang state media unveiled photos of its combat drill. Military experts say the pictures show 240 millimeter and 300 millimeter multiple rocket launchers and the North Korean version of Russia's Iskander mobile short-range ballistic missile system.
The North almost copied Russia's Iskander. The missile is able to move away from its original orbit to change its target or avoid being shot down. And that's why it's the newest ballistic missile.
They say the solid fuel missiles can fly as far as 300 kilometers, putting a large part of the Korean Peninsula within range. Pundits add they're also capable of neutralizing THAAD, the advanced U.S. anti-missile system. Watchers say the North wanted to press Seoul and Washington, but didn't want to prompt extreme tension. They say it could have also been a move against Seoul's ongoing joint military drills with Washington. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Presidents Moon Jae-in and Donald Trump will talk on the phone later this evening to discuss North Korea's latest firing of projectiles.
The leaders are set to exchange views on the developments made since the April 11th summit between the two presidents, as well as discuss ways to improve the current situation on the Korean Peninsula.
A Blue House spokesperson said the leaders are likely to discuss countermeasures to the regime's firing, as well as the impact of the firing on nuclear negotiations between Pyongyang and Washington and on the Korean Peninsula. Also today, President Moon, in a forthcoming op-ed, has stressed that inter-Korean relations should not be misused for political or ideological purposes, but must be dealt with as an issue of life and existence for ordinary people. The article will be published this week in a German newspaper, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, in time for the second anniversary of Moon taking office. In the editorial, President Moon says a permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula is for the Korean people and goes beyond politics and diplomacy. Peace, he says, will not stop at the demilitarized zone, but will spread through Northeast Asia and even to Europe. The president also expresses hope for better relations between the leaders of North Korea and the U.S., saying if the talks lead to complete denuclearization, a new order of peace will reign on the Korean Peninsula. The op-ed will be included in a collection of editorials by world leaders to be published in the German daily this month. South Korea and China have agreed to boost their communication and cooperation to achieve the Korean Peninsula's denuclearization. National Assembly Speaker Moon Hee-sang met in Beijing on Monday with Yang Jie-chi, a member of the Politburo of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee, with whom he exchanged views on the current situation. Moon is on a three-day trip to China. In regards to North Korea's firing of projectiles over the weekend, Yang reportedly said that although denuclearization talks appear to have stalled at the moment, he doesn't see the latest development having an impact on a broader scale. Separately, in a lecture on Tuesday at Peking University, Moon stressed the need for a phased and synchronized roadmap for North Korea and the U.S. to break the current impasse. He added that Seoul has made clear to Pyongyang that there will be no progress in inter-Korean relations if it doesn't give up its nuclear program, and called on China to persuade North Korea to take the path of a normal state. The United States, meanwhile, is bringing up North Korea's human rights issue, pledging to continue fighting the abuses faced by many ordinary North Korean people. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
The U.S. State Department issued a statement on Monday calling out human rights abuses by the North Korean regime as it marked North Korea Freedom Week. The annual event, organized by South Korean and international activists, hopes to raise awareness of the suffering in the North. According to a State Department spokesperson, North Korea has subjected its people to egregious violations of human rights and fundamental freedoms for decades, adding there are approximately 100,000 North Koreans in political prison camps, while those who try to escape are often tortured or killed if caught. The State Department added it will continue to work with the international community to raise awareness, highlight abuses and violations, enhance access to independent information, and promote respect for human rights in North Korea. Meanwhile, according to diplomatic sources, the UN Human Rights Council will review the human rights situation in North Korea during the 33rd session of the Working Group of the Universal Periodic Review, which will take place from May 6th to the 17th in Geneva. The sources say inquiries submitted on North Korea focus on torture and mistreatment of women and children, as well as other violations. The U.S. is asking for statistics on the number of people detained in North Korea's prison system, while Britain wants to know what measures are being taken by North Korea to ensure religious freedom and right to education. Canada wants the North to address its efforts to implement and ensure freedom of assembly, while Sweden is pressing for any improvements on torture, forced labor, and suspensions of meals for prisoners. Before finalizing its review, the Council will also consider a self-evaluation report by North Korea, as well as the opinions of other related UN bodies and independent human rights organizations. South Korea has not submitted any inquiries. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
In other news, the United States says it will raise tariffs on Chinese imports later this week, throwing into doubt any chances of the two sides ending their trade war. South Korea, meanwhile, is bracing for the potential fallout. Ko Ryun-hee has the details.
A fresh battle in the trade war between Washington and Beijing now appears inevitable. Despite weeks of signals, the two sides were edging closer to reaching a deal. U.S.Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer told reporters on Monday that there was an erosion of commitments by China and said Washington plans to raise tariffs on Chinese goods on Friday. However, he emphasized the trade talks will continue because significant issues, including tariffs, remain unsolved. China's Commerce Ministry announced on Tuesday the date of the next round. The ministry said Vice Premier Liu He will visit the U.S. from Thursday to Friday, but it didn't provide details such as the topics of discussion. This comes after President Trump tweeted on Sunday that tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods will be hiked to 25% from the current 10% starting May 10th, saying the trade deal was moving too slowly. To discuss the impact of the rapidly re-escalating trade tensions, South Korea's central bank chief held a meeting on Tuesday to examine the potential impact on local and international financial markets. Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol said uncertainties in the U.S.-China trade dispute have emerged again, but the situation doesn't look overly concerning right now because the two sides are still negotiating. For instance, in South Korea, he said the conditions for foreign currency borrowing remain solid. However, Lee emphasized that officials should closely monitor the situation after the three main indices on Wall Street closed lower on Monday. Asian stocks were mixed on Tuesday, with Japan's Nikkei 225 shedding more than 1.5% and China's Shanghai Composite Index adding around 0.7%. Ko Ryun-hee, Arirang News.
South Korean stocks were also down on Tuesday because of the renewed trade tensions between Washington and Beijing. The benchmark KOSPI closed sharply lower, down almost 0.9% to close at just under 2177. The tech-heavy KOSDAQ slid more than 1% to 753. As well as the US-China trade tensions, investors were also rattled by North Korea's firing of projectiles into the East Sea. The South Korean government says it will build 110,000 new homes as part of its new town development plan. These will be near Seoul, most of them in Goyang and Bucheon. The move will add to the 190,000 homes announced last year in an effort to stabilize the housing market. Kim Da-mi reports.
With the government revealing these specific public housing sites, all eyes are on the two sites in the cities of Goyang and Bucheon.
In order to stabilize the housing market through balanced demand and supply, the government has promised to build 300,000 extra low-priced but quality homes and has now proposed a plan for Stage 3.
Back in September and December, the government announced the sites for 190,000 new homes. And in this third phase, Changneung-dong in Goyang and Daejang-dong in Bucheon will see 58,000 new homes constructed by 2022. The sites for the first two stages were chosen based on the government development plan. But the last stage, being within a 30-minute commute of Seoul, was the first qualification, and the sites in Goyang and Bucheon are within 1 kilometer of Seoul. The ministry said it will further strengthen public transportation systems by extending existing subway lines and establishing new roads and bus rapid transit routes known as SBRT. The government will also create a family and work-friendly environment with plans to run public schools and support startups. People can apply for the third stage homes from 2022. In addition, in order to prevent market speculation, the sites in surrounding areas will be designated as land trade authorization areas. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
South Korea's labor productivity in all industrial sectors increased slightly last year, mainly due to reduced working hours. According to the Korea Productivity Center, the labor productivity index recorded 108.3 in 2018, which is up 3.6% from the previous year. The index is calculated by dividing added value by work hours relative to the base year 2015. The centre said the index has been increasing steadily for 3 straight years, attributing last year's rise to a boost in private consumption and the shorter working hours. South Korea introduced the 52-hour workweek system last July for companies with 300 or more employees. The South Korean government has begun phasing out its fuel tax cuts, reducing the cuts from 15% to 7%. The prices of fuel products, especially at gas stations, has noticeably increased since the move took effect today. Our Seoul has more.
The government started phasing out its fuel tax cuts on Tuesday, with the tax cuts to be completely eliminated by September. According to the Ministry of Economics and Finance on May 6, the government reduced its fuel tax cuts from 15% to just 7% starting Tuesday. The 7% cut, which lasts until the end of August, means the current fuel cut stands at 56 cents per liter, roughly 4 cents per liter lower than it would be without any cuts at all. The first tax cut of 15% began in November and lasted for 6 months in an attempt to help small businesses and ordinary citizens. The reduction in the cuts from 15% to 7% will see prices of gasoline, diesel, and LPG increase by around 6 cents, 4 cents, and 1 cent, respectively. According to oped, the oil information service ran by the Korean National Oil Corporation, gas prices at stations across the country have edged up to almost $1.04 per liter as of 5 p.m. local time, up 2 cents from yesterday.
A price hike due to the newly implemented smaller tax cut is highly likely. In the mid to long term, fluctuations in oil prices due to supply and geographical issues are also crucial external factors.
The expert said that domestic prices for fuel products are highly likely to be affected by those factors. 서은경, Arirang News.
South Korea's Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi has urged Parliament to endorse the government-led budget plan aimed at reviving the economy and tackling air pollution. Chairing a weekly cabinet meeting earlier today, Hong cited growing uncertainty in the global financial market. He added the longer it takes for the budget to get passed, the longer it will take for the local economy to recover, especially for those who are suffering from the aftermath of deadly fires that hit parts of the country. The minister said the Parliament's extraordinary session comes to an end Tuesday, but the date for the budget approval, worth $5.8 billion, is yet to be decided. A long-standing debate over whether police should have more power to pursue criminal cases has generated strong tensions between them and prosecutors. Our Oh Soo-young takes a deeper look into the issue.
Korea's prosecution and police remain at loggerheads over a plan to redistribute the country's investigative powers. Chief Prosecutor Moon Moo-eun said Tuesday that legislative reform plans allowing the police to close initial investigations goes against democratic principles. He told reporters earlier in the day that the power to control, open and end investigations must be segregated in order to protect the rights of citizens. Meanwhile, the Commissioner General of the National Police Agency has indirectly supported the redistribution of power. Under the country's Criminal Procedure Act, only prosecutors have the authority to close investigations. The prosecution also has the exclusive right to indict suspects and, since 1962, the sole right to seek arrest warrants, making the police subject to the orders of prosecutors. Over the years, the asymmetrical system has led to concerns and criticism that such imbalance of power could lead to the obstruction of justice. Following a string of bribery and abuse of power scandals involving high-profile prosecutors, public skepticism towards the current investigative system has heightened in recent years. As part of a drive to root out corruption, the Moon Jae-in administration has pushed for the reassignment of investigative powers and the establishment of a special body to tackle corruption among senior government officials. However, efforts to fast-track legislation proposing these measures have been met with resistance from the prosecution, saying police authority would grow excessively. The police have dismissed these claims, saying the prosecution has the authority to intervene in any investigation. Also, the prosecution is particularly opposed to allowing the police to close initial cases, saying this could lead to cases being closed without sufficient investigation. Police authorities have again retorted that appeals can be made and that prosecutors can exercise their right to order reinvestigations. In what appears to be an attempt to find a middle ground, Cho Guk, a senior official at the presidential office, said Monday that the prosecution's concerns must be heeded. But he indicated that the fast-track decision on the reform must be respected and that efforts must be made to create an autonomous police and a special investigation body while upholding checks against excessive police expansion. A survey completed last week by Realmeter shows some 57% of some 9,000 Korean adults are in favour of rebalancing investigative powers. 31% opposed over concerns that the police could gain too much authority. Oh Seong, Arirang News.
The April session of the South Korean parliament came to a close today, but partisan issues have prevented lawmakers from getting any work done on pending bills. Tensions at the National Assembly soared after the ruling Democratic Party and the minor opposition bloc designated key reform bills as fast-track, despite resistance from the main opposition, Liberty Korea Party. In protest, Liberty Korea Party chief Hwang Kyo-an embarked on a nationwide tour against the Moon Jae-in administration, which he claims is a dictatorship. Starting in the southern port city of Busan, Hwang will be hitting the streets to meet with local residents over the next month. The ruling party has demanded that the main opposition party return to negotiations at the National Assembly, stressing the need to convene a parliamentary session in May to work on pending bills, including the government's extra budget proposal. President Moon Jae-in has promised to expand his government support for those with Alzheimer's disease, reiterating his campaign pledge. At a visit Tuesday to an Alzheimer's care facility, the president vowed to make sure more people benefit from the program. The government has been working to cut the cost of caring for Alzheimer's patients by half by raising the ratio covered by the national health insurance. Moon's first visit to such a facility comes a day ahead of Parents' Day, which is tomorrow. There are still tensions between South Korea and Japan over territorial and historical issues, but there are hopes that K-pop might help build bridges between the two countries. Our Won Jong-hwan has the story.
17-year-old Yuka Hatsumi is auditioning to get into a K-pop training academy. Other Japanese teenagers watch Yuka closely as they also share her dream of becoming a K-pop superstar.
If I pass this audition, I will practice to the death to become a K-pop star.
Now Nitsu, a 19-year-old college freshman from Tokyo, practices singing and dancing alone in her home. Now, who also eagerly studies the Korean language, is already in South Korea, preparing to make her mark in the entertainment business. She says she's enjoying her time in Korea.
Our generation is much more interested in Korean cosmetics, fashion, and K-pop than the recent diplomatic issues between the two countries. Our generation has a very good impression about South Korea.
Miyu Takeuchi is a former member of Japan's renowned idol group, AKB48, and she's also one of many K-pop star wannabes from Japan. Miyu said it wasn't a difficult decision to leave a 10-year career with a top Japanese idol band to come to Korea.
I have no regrets leaving my Japanese idol group and becoming a trainee for a K-pop group. I've accomplished nothing so far.
Diplomatic relations between South Korea and Japan have soured, but there's no dampening K-pop's popularity in Japan.
BTS and Twice, these are entertainers that everyone loves. There's still much more room in the Japanese market for K-pop acts.
The recent success of BTS's tour in Japan proves that, at least in terms of K-pop, the tense relations between the governments in Seoul and Tokyo doesn't negatively affect young Japanese from wanting to make it big as a K-pop star. Watchers say the influx of Japanese talent could offer some welcome relief to the increasingly bitter political acrimony between the two countries. Won Jong-hwan, Arirang News.
The Jeonju International Film Festival kicks off in Korea this week to give some Koreans' rookie directors a chance to debut their works on the silver screen. Arirang's Cha Sang-mi had the chance to meet with some of the country's up-and-coming filmmakers.
The 20th Cheonju International Film Festival gives an insight into the future of Korean film through the work of some of the country's up-and-coming directors. 10 films were selected from 104 for the festival, and these films represent a recent trend of Korean independent films, which focus on the younger generation's frustration and worries for their future. Park Ju-young's first film, Goodbye Summer, tells the story of teenagers' friendship, love, and life. The director tries to shed light on the importance of time through a character who is terminally ill, but nevertheless tries to find happiness and love by fully focusing on the present.
I think my film is something that audiences can sit back and enjoy, a bit different from recent Korean independent films that were more subtle and serious. I think audiences will have fun finding a hidden story within it.
Own Way, directed by Kim Song-mi, is a documentary film about a group of young people trying to create an experimental community in a small city to find answers to their questions about relationships and society.
As a filmmaker, I question a lot about whether I fit in Korea's mainstream society. And I thought it would be great to have a community where people like me can be a part of, and I hope to find an answer through the documentary film.
For emerging directors like Park and Kim, these festivals are a chance to showcase their work and find inspiration.
I hope this movie will help make myself more known as a credible filmmaker, and hope there will be more systematic support for directors to focus on movie making.
Every day I have the desire to create something, and the topic changes all the time. But these days I want to focus on the lives of women in Korean society and to investigate me as an individual.
An award ceremony for the featured films will be held on May 8th, and the festival will wrap up on the 11th. 차상미, 아리랑 뉴스, 전주.
The Bank of Korea says the country's foreign exchange reserves amounted to $404 billion last month, down just over $1 billion from March. The central bank attributed the fall to a stronger US dollar, which pulled down the value of other foreign currency assets. As of the end of March, South Korea had the world's 9th largest foreign exchange reserves, with China topping the list. South Korea's largest annual market for broadcasting content will open on Wednesday in Busan. The 13th Busan Contents Market will run for 4 days at the Busan Exhibition and Convention Center, with more than 1,100 companies from 50 countries taking part. They will showcase content ranging from dramas and films to documentaries and animations. There will also be global pitching events as well as sneak peeks into new TV dramas attended by celebrities. Nearly half of young single people in Korea say they don't think they'll ever be able to buy their own home. According to a survey conducted by the Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs, some 90% of Koreans aged between 25 and 39 wanted to be a homeowner. But 44% of them said it seems impossible, mostly due to economic reasons. Pessimism was particularly high in urban areas where, despite government efforts, property prices have continued to soar. South Korean Soprano Jo Sumi has received a knighthood from the Italian government. She was decorated with the Order of the Italian Star and granted a Cavaliere title on Monday for her contributions to fostering bilateral exchanges in the field of opera music. Ever since Jo went to Italy in 1983, her superb interpretation of Italian opera has helped lead to greater exchanges in opera music between Italy and Korea. That has been your 3-minute news flash. It is that time now to take a look at some of the digital media content available on Arirang's social media platforms.
And today we have another episode of Unni News, where our Lee Min-sun takes a closer look at the top social and economic trends.
Hi everyone, this Unni is back. I'm Min-sun, a news reporter at Arirang TV. And from now on, we'll have more Unnis covering the news for you. And here's today's Unni News. There's is a special yellow carpet that exists only in Korea. Yellow carpet? 시상식인가?
Nope.
With the installation of the yellow carpet, the driver concentration rate has increased from 34% to 85%. There are about 900 yellow carpets installed as of last year. And a growing number of local governments are looking to install more of these as they become more aware of children traffic safety. Way to go, yellow carpet!
들이 가르쳐 주었어. 밤하늘을 바라보는데 문득 할아버지는 참 슬퍼졌다. 너무도 오랜만에 하늘을 올려다보고 있다는 걸 알았기 때문이다.
Grandpa and Granny's love for their grandchildren have won international recognition. This year's the Webby Award, an international internet art awards, the couple was selected to receive People's Voice Award in social art and culture category. I guess grandparents' love for their grandchildren is greater than anything. I miss my grandparents.
간다는 것이 힘들고 괴롭고 피곤한 것이 연속이라 생각했었는데 이제 돌아보니 아름다웠더라. 할아버지는 여태 그걸 몰랐는데 별들이 가르쳐 주었다.
As the saying goes, love is always on the move. Because the price of Korean pork belly has skyrocketed. It jumped 10% in early May compared to the same period last year. The price of imported frozen pork belly fell 7%, making locally produced pork belly almost twice more expensive than the imported ones. Also, with popular neutral trend, more young consumers are captivated with old style and taste of frozen pork belly. But no matter it's frozen, foreign or old-fashioned, Koreans' crave for pork belly will not go away. That's it from This Only Today. Make sure to subscribe and like this video. We'll be back on Friday. Bye!
Nothing beats fresh strawberries on a warm day, and not only are they delicious, but they're also full of nutrients.
That's right, strawberries are a great source of fibre, vitamin C and antioxidants. And today, Michelle Park is standing by to tell us some tips for keeping strawberries fresh, as well as the latest weather forecast. Michelle, what do you have for us today?
Good evening, guys. Now, we can agree that strawberries are delicious, my favorite, but they tend to have a very short shelf life. Now, here are some ways to properly store them to keep them fresh for about 2 weeks. Now, it's very simple. Now, submerge them in water mixed with vinegar for about 5 minutes and then just rinse it off in running water. Now, let them completely dry and store them in a container lined with a paper towel. Now, this method works for any types of berries, so go ahead and try them. And with that said, let's have a look at our weather for tomorrow. Wednesday will stay dry but cool with some cloud cover. However, as the weather gets warmer into the afternoon, we can also expect some UV rays as well. Now keep in mind the morning lows will be about 2 to 4 degrees below the seasonal average. Seoul and Daegu will kick off to 10 degrees Celsius, while Busan and Jeju will start off into 13 degrees Celsius. The afternoon highs will mostly reach the low 20s, while Daegu and Gyeongju can expect higher readings up to 24 and 25 degrees respectively. Now the rest of the week will stay rain-free, but there will be big gaps in morning lows and afternoon highs. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That will wrap it up for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you, as always, for watching.
Stay tuned to Arirang for more analysis on current issues on News in Depth coming up next.